This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Hey, welcome back out to Frisco, Texas. The fans starting to make their way into the stadium. We're going to head to an exclusive interview I had with Mike Stick, Easton's father, catching up a little bit about quarterback Easton Stick and who he is behind the curtain. What age was Easton when you had any idea that he had this potential? Do you remember?
He's always been a pretty good athlete, you know, probably when he was 7 or 8 years old. He had played with some older kids and was able to be competitive and hold his own. So it was a pretty early age.
When you talk to parents, a lot of times they'll say, well, you know, maybe someday he'll get a scholarship for sports or something. When did you guys start talking to him about that and kind of planning for that future?
It probably wasn't until maybe he was a sophomore in high school, really. It's not something that you always think about. You know, he runs around wearing Texas gear all the time and dreams about playing and doing those things, but probably wasn't until maybe his sophomore year where you started to get some letters and those things. And yeah, we kind of thought, well, maybe we need to start planning and start to figure this out and see how this is going to work. So
when you think about the recruiting process and some of the different players that came in and out, what was it about NDSU?
Family. I mean, it really was one of those places that you got to and you realized this was it. And I think Shelly and I knew that before we got that cue from Easton. It felt different than a lot of places.
Tell me about when he said, because you said it was all his decision. So when he said, Mom and Dad, I want to be a Bison. Do you remember that day, that night, what that moment was like?
I do. To take you back a little bit, he got to a point where he was getting ready to make a decision, and I said, I need you to do me one favor. When you realize where you want to go, I want you to wait 2 weeks. And at the end of that 2 weeks, if it feels the same, then that's where you know you want to be. The official visit, Sunday morning, just before going to meeting the coaches, he was brushing his teeth and kind of got emotional and said, this is where I want to be. We're not taking any more trips.
You send your son off to college expecting he's going to follow and spend a couple years learning the position, and all of a sudden, we're at Indiana State. I know you were a nervous wreck. We have video evidence of it. But what's that like?
We had talked to Easton so much about his experience from the day he stepped on campus and working with Carson, and we had an idea of how much time he had put into things, of learning the process and talking with Carson and all that. So when it happened, we were nervous, but we were really comfortable that he was prepared to do it. You know, just from a parent standpoint, you worry that NDSU's on this big run, and then you have this young kid who's got to go in now. You're nervous.
Do you remember much of that game?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Was it the blood pumping in your eardrums? I mean, what stands out about that game? What do you remember most about that moment?
I think for me, I think I was proud, anxious, excited, nervous, all of it. But it was a lot easier to handle because, again, I knew how hard he prepares and the time that he puts into it.
You look at the football IQ. I mean, I'm sure you have always talked football with Easton, but as he's continued to come home year after year from sitting in that room with Randy, what's it like just to see how much that football IQ has grown and those conversations have developed? Do you watch football entirely differently now than you did 4 years ago?
Absolutely. We don't have those types of discussions anymore because it's just above my pay grade that way. I mean, it's just taken on a life of its own that way. But yes, he's learned so much from this program. And
he's incredibly professional and well-spoken, always kind and courteous. What's he like behind that curtain? What's he like at home? What's a Saturday in the summer when he's not up here training that, you know, the sticks are around the dinner table? Is he telling jokes? What's Easton like for you guys as a son?
A lot about what you see every day is usually what you get with Easton. He's very humble, very even keel. So what you see is what you get with him. He is never too high, never too low. And I think that personality allows him to do some of the things that he does on the field You know, you see him, he never gets too rattled or too excited, but he always kind of seems, but that's in his personal life as well.
How thankful are you for the community, for not only your Bison family, but for the Fargo community, the state of North Dakota, how they've embraced your son?
Just thank you. Again, it's been just a tremendous ride, and I don't think there could have been a better fit than Fargo for us, but words won't do it justice. We're tremendously proud and thankful.
You know, guys, I really appreciate Mike Stick joining us for that one. Committed to that one of the first weeks of the season, and I said, if you're in Frisco, I want that interview. And he came through. He absolutely did. Shared some really cool stories. Going to put that entire thing up online. It was about a 25-minute interview. Shared a lot of the behind the scenes, what happened when Bull left, what's happened with Chris, the relationship with Randy, Carson. Some cool stories, though, about why NDSU, and I love that. There couldn't have been a better place.
They raised a very, very, very good son. And I know we were talking with the younger Stick, too, last night a little bit, and it's genuine. I think that's the one thing that you can see right off the bat is it's genuine, and Easton's a great guy.
You know, he is, and I think as a parent, I would just like to pick his brain. How do I do that? How do I get my daughter to turn out like Easton?
I said, how do you raise a kid like this? And he said, I don't really know. We just kept communicating with him, talked a lot.
But I think the biggest thing, too, with Easton is you can tell he has had very strong mentors. And I think that's an important piece of the puzzle, not only in college, but out through high school when you're growing up, is have people that you want to emulate and mirror what they do. And you can tell he's done that. He's doing a lot of the same things that Carson does, off and on the field. You can't overvalue the importance of that type of a relationship for a young man.
We've all gotten to know Easton throughout the years, and we all have our own stories. My story, my son Cruz played a football game in the Fargo Dome, fourth grade tackle football game. Wrote a letter to Easton, invited him to the game. Of course, Easton Stick shows up a couple of months ago, gives my son Cruz a locker room tour. It could have lasted 5 minutes, and I bet those two were in the locker room for 25 or 30 minutes. He's just a kid that gets it, and he cares, and it's pretty special.
Yeah, it's really cool. We're going to talk more about his on-the-field accomplishments, obviously, as we compare these two quarterbacks that are facing off today. But for now, we're going to pitch it back to the studio. Got a little business to take care of, a little injury information.